This is what, of course, Jonah Goldberg talks about in liberal fascism. You know, fascist movements throughout the 20th century, and the same applies to communist movements in the 20th century. What they needed was a cause so great that it required government to step in and override individual freedom, because this cause was so important that only mass government action could deal with it. And of course, with environmentalism, they have the perfect excuse to ride roughshod over democracy, to deny voters the right to choose who governs them, because this cause is so important that only the United Nations, only world government can really save us from this menace. And this is what we're up against.
But didn't that backfire on them for decades? I'd read UN, Club of Rome, saying they were going to set up a world government, that we'd pay taxes to them. And they said, oh, you're crazy, that doesn't exist. I'm like, but I have your own book. I have your own biological diversity assessment, 1996. So they stonewalled, but now they come out and go, world government's here to save you, to save the penguins, the polar bears. I think that's another reason they're so discredited, is they're so full of hubris and arrogance. They think they can just sit up there and say, the science is settled, world government will save you. People fundamentally, even if they're dumbed down, know science is never settled. That's what the scientific method's all about. People know.
We can never mention often enough the involvement of Maurice Strong, who is one of the great believers in world government. He now lives in China, of course, which is his spiritual home. Maurice Strong, a great advocate of world government, who is also heavily exposed to the carbon trading industry. And guess what? He was the guy who was in charge of the first great eco summit, the Rio summit. That was Maurice Strong's baby.
And he said, isn't it our job to destroy industrial society? And now, literally every day, I see other UN scientists quoting him.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I mean, we were talking about science just a moment ago. I mean, are you aware of the concept of post-normal science?
Yes.
Post-normal science is the idea that the new science no longer looks for any kind of objective truth. It no longer looks at the data and draws conclusions from the data. Instead, post-normal science is about science twisted to a particular cause. In this case, of course, the cause of man-made global warming. That these scientists have decided, okay, man-made global warming exists. We're not going to look at any more evidence. We've decided it definitely exists, because all our theoretical models show it does, so it must do. So what we're going to do from now on is not look at any more raw evidence. What we're going to do is tamper with the evidence so that it supports our cause. This is the new science.
Well, I do believe in a creator, but, I mean, is it not beautiful that it got so much colder right as their 25-year plan, at least that old?
It's fantastic, Alex. You know, we don't have as much money on our side as the opposition does. My God, we don't. But one thing we do have on the side is Mother Gaia, or rather the weather. The weather is really supporting our cause big time. I think you've been having pretty cold time in America, haven't you? We've had our first major snow, in years, and it's been glorious to listen to the BBC and the Met Office and the CRU and all these other people who've been pushing this man-made global warming thing, suddenly trying to have to defend themselves against the fact that outside you've got pretty much polar conditions, you know, and so they have to come up with these phrases like weather is not the same as climate, and this is the kind of extreme weather we can expect to look forward to in the future under global warming. And people are saying, well, if it's warming, how come it's cold? And they say, well, you don't understand the science. You see, the science is blah, blah, blah. Well, it's great.
They said that their peer-reviewed journals were bulletproof, and every time they're examined, every time they will release the data, which is always very suspicious in science,
yes,
we find them making mistakes. No, it's fraud. Now, and of course, the mistakes are always towards saying it would be warm. It's never the other way. Totally premeditated, as the ClimateGate documents show. But you talked about the enemy within. I wanted to read Marcus Tullius Cicero, Roman philosopher and historian. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly, i.e. Hitler. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely. His sly whispers, rustling through the alleyways, heard in the very halls of the government itself. For the traitor appears not a traitor. He speaks in accents familiar to his victims, and he wears their face in their arguments. He appeals to the baseness that lies deep in the hearts of all men. He rots the soul of a nation. He works secretly and unknown in the night to undermine the pillars of the city. He infects the body politic so that it can no longer resist. A murderer is less to fear. The traitor is the plague.
Well, there you are. Nothing new under the sun, as the Romans would say. Yeah, exactly. Well, he knew what he was talking about, didn't he? The enemy within is a much more insidious prospect to have to deal with than an enemy plain in view.
But it seems the Brits are waking up to common purpose, and these EU foundations literally taking control of almost every local citizen activist charity. Yeah. I mean, it does seem people are waking up there. Here, Americans are a little bit slower, but I mean, it's horrible.
Alex, I can tell you that the grass always looks greener on the other side. I can tell you that we are actually probably slower to pick up on these things than you are in America. You know, for example, in my Obamaland book, I talk about our Prime Minister Tony Blair, who completely ruined this country through all sorts of human rights legislation, all these measures designed to increase the control of the state over the populace. We did not rebel against him. We did not, we drank the Kool-Aid for 12 years. At least in America, look what's happened after only a year of Obama.
But that's the key. That's the key, though. In the name of human rights, they took your rights.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. But at least you Americans are fighting back.
Well, I mean, the Brits seem to be getting pretty upset. The problem is Gordon Brown, unelected. You can't seem to get rid of him because they manipulate Parliament. Stay there. Yeah. Final segment with you coming right back. James Delingpole is our guest. I'm Alex Jones, prisonplanet.tv, jonesreport.com, infowars.com. Stay with us.